And that's introducing color, isn't it? So all I can say to you right now is that this is herbs. It's 7 herbs. It's German. But it includes a variety of bitter substances. And because I don't like the tea, you know, normally you would drink this as a tea, but that's just almost impossible to suffer through. Like, yeah, you can, but it's really heavy, like really bitter. So I fill this into capsules and then I take 1 per day. And I'm trying to fight my sugar cravings with this. Okay, this is not only, this is like anise, cumin, fennel. Yeah, I'm not going to try to translate these other ones. But if you just look up bitter herbs, you will find something like this. And for example, ayahuasca and jurema, which are very high in DMT. They're really bitter. And therefore I started to incorporate bitter a bit into my diet. And like I said, like I have trouble to eat bitter substances. And therefore this is like a way of doing this in a more, yeah, it's just easier. Like I don't always have to look for fancy words. It's just easier. So yeah, sometimes I'm feeding myself because I drink a lot of coffee and I do eat a lot of sugar. And I know I always say that, but this is spiritual advice. And I have had experiences where I realized, you know, there was like some kind of dark entity or energy, or, you know, if you want to call it a ghost or a spirit or whatever, you know, was like inside of me. And these things exist on different kinds of levels of consciousness. It's just like, you know, you can have the materialistic mindset and consciousness, but you can also have that, you know, it's all one. So both exists at the same time, but depending on maybe your experiences and the way you've been raised, but also depending on where you are in your development as a soul maybe, you may pick up different things. But even if you have the materialistic mindset, the fact remains that everything is energy. And energy is love, another word for it. So love is just a word. And there are things that hate everything. And sometimes I think of myself and I realize, you know, I'm not always me. And how do I know that? I know that because I know other people are not always them. And how do I know that? I know that because I know that the soul is pure light. And pure light loves life. Pure light loves creation. Pure light is just soft and gentle. That's just my belief. And if that is the soul, which I believe, because it comes from heaven, You know, whatever heaven is, it's just a place. You know, one that we probably cannot imagine. And maybe it's just, you know, heaven, maybe it's just, you know, being one with everything. And maybe heaven is something entirely different. But to me, it's just an idea. It's where the light comes from, the source of it. Something like that. So if you then say, there are people who have like dark thoughts and do evil deeds, right? Like lie and steal and cheat and kill and, you know, have evil intentions, then it must be something other than the soul. And I mean, if you, for example, listen to Terence McKenna, then you will realize that he talks about different kinds of entities. And some of them he calls like the DMT elves or something. It's quite interesting to listen to his stories because, you know, these things are real. And there is a language without words. And some things, like some experience, you cannot describe them with words unless you are talking to people who have had a similar or more or less the same kind of experience. So for example, what he experienced with DMT, I didn't experience any of that. I never really see like funny, weird creatures. I sometimes see like weird, like kind of scary things. Like for some reason or other, sometimes when I was doing ayahuasca and I closed my eyes, I was seeing all kinds of cartoon figures. Until at one time I said, stop that, I don't want to see that anymore, and it stopped. So it's also a choice, you know, what you want to invite into the experience. Because you are kind of a creator, and therefore you can choose what is a part of your life. And the choice of food, like what we put into our body, how does that make us feel? Like I am too acidic right now, I realize that. But I tell myself, yeah, you know, I can't change that right now because, you know, there are bigger things at stake. You know, I have to create YouTube videos. But then imagine doing these kind of YouTube videos. But in a way, of course, drinking coffee helps me to be the barbarian lunatic. But what does that mean? Because then I lose myself in a role and I sacrifice my own health to be something that I'm not. So I'm creating a figure that is somewhat evil. And sometimes this evil is running amok with my being. So it just does what it wants. And all I can do then is to realize afterwards what has happened. Because when I give control to my dark side or to these weird beings that are in us, and like I said, I have seen these things talk to me from inside other people. And it's very disturbing if you pick up stuff like this. And it can be really scary. But I have been shown these things, so I had to learn how to deal with it. Like I have seen things within myself that just scared the shit out of me. And I had no other way of calling this, you know, like being possessed or something. And that was like a spirit that also made me take a lot of chapé, because it gathers strength through it. And the more I did chapé, sometimes I was not in charge anymore. I was just doing really evil things. But in a way, I can say that I couldn't really help it. But at a certain point, I have to take back the control so to speak. Because, you know, if you want to do God's work in a way, like there are certain things that you should not do anymore. And that is like feeding all that hatred. And for example, when you read some of the scriptures of Jesus, it says that his wife or something, Maria Magdalena or something, I think that was her, that she was freed of 9 demons. And I have seen these things in people, and you can call them like maybe a witch or something. And what is that in the end? I mean, it's also just some kind of lost soul or something, right? Wanting love, and, previously it was some kind of child. So, of course, you can say, it's evil spirits, but it may also be that it's a part of you, like a part of your soul, that came into existence through a trauma, right? So there's always different ways of seeing these things. So you can be afraid of it because you can say, oh my God, there's something inside of me and I don't think it's me. But you can also see it as a part of yourself that needs to be healed. But sometimes I do feel really weird things. Like sometimes I felt like there was like some kind of slimy stuff on my back. I don't know what that was. And we treated it with oils. And when you have something like this, it's really scary because I don't know what that is. And I do realize on certain levels of consciousness, things can be treated in different ways. So if you have, for example, some kind of darkness inside of you, you can treat it on the level of an exorcism. Because maybe that darkness just needs to show itself, right? And then it will scream and shout like, ah! Barely look human, because it is actually a part in you that is heavily in pain. But you can also treat it as, an evil spirit that needs to leave. But, probably it's just a part of yourself. And maybe saying that it's an evil spirit is just a lack of understanding. But it may look that way. And it may be easier for you for a while to say that's not a part of me. So, sometimes to fight my sugar addiction, it's easier to consider it something evil inside of me that makes me eat sugar than to just accept that maybe it's really just fungi and stuff. So, but that's of course because I have seen things on ayahuasca, like, the essence of greed. You see that these things are kind of presences, and they do exist on certain levels. And there are not always psychedelics involved when I see these things. Also, for instance, when I close my eyes and I apply pressure onto my eyeballs, I start seeing all kinds of shapes that I also used to see during ayahuasca ceremonies. Like, where does that come from? It's not just random. So that brings me back to making these capsules. It's just, I do realize that I have a somewhat tendency to do really extreme and stupid things. So when I say to people, like, I can't help you, it's because I'm just really bloody determined. And that means I push myself beyond what my body can take. So it's very strenuous what I ask of my body, and therefore I need great amounts of energy that I apply through food, because maybe I'm reluctant to meditate. I just don't like it. But that's also part of the Barbarian Lunatic somehow, and there's a reason I created that, because this is partly who I need to be in this life and who I feel like, you know, it's also easy for me to be that. But then I just make things like this. For example, I also have Triphala, which is also a powder. I think it's 3 berries and it's coming from the Ayurvedic area. And I also made that into capsules, because to me capsules are just the easiest thing. Well, then I take vegan ones, because I try mostly to live vegan. And I also take, for example, iron and acerola. So it's some kind of counterbalance. But I also realize, you know, I don't want to always live like this. So right now it's just too much to keep my balance with all these factors and then put in the work. And at the same time also say no to all the sugar and stuff. I just feel like, but that's just an excuse, and I know that too. But anyway, so these are capsules, and I really enjoy making them, to be honest. Kind of miss making them if I'm not making them, because I like this. Like the whole process. Normally I don't talk, of course. Normally I would just do it. Calm and relaxed. And I mean, in the beginning I had really problems. Not really problems, but I couldn't take really a lot of capsules, and now I could take 9 at once or something. And yeah, like I said, I think it's a nice way of passing the time. Sometimes in between, and it's also something to keep yourself busy, right? So, you know, if you have nothing to do, or you want to do something else for a change, you can make some capsules and you can prepare them. Like you can do like a whole session and make them for half a year, and then you don't have to do them at all anymore. And that's usually how I do things. The same with the videos now. I do a lot at once, and then I can leave it for a while. But of course, that has then the potential to overwork yourself, because you're trying to get rid of it as quick as possible. And you can see that then, of course, as a challenge, but you know, does it always have to be like this? Who knows? But yeah, this is 250 grams, and I think this is the second time I'm making these, and the first time, or maybe already the third. Actually, it doesn't taste too bad, but the taste, like, it doesn't smell too bad. Because there's also other things in it, like I said, cumin and stuff, and that makes it more like sweet. But anyway, let's see where this evening is heading. I'm not quite sure yet. But we'll see. Cheers.